I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Nurmagomedov performance and then how I think he matches up against Sean and Merab, but I'm going to give you a wrinkle that I think is more likely to happen. Umar showed us everything we needed to see to know that he's a championship caliber fighter. What's amazing is that he has the last name Nurmagomedov. You see Khabib in his corner, so you automatically, for most people that don't really love the sport and dive into the X's and O's of the fighters like we do, they would just assume that he's probably a grappler who's working on his striking. That is not the case with Umar. He started out as a striker, and Abdulmanap and Khabib and all of them, Islam said, look, if you want to be a top-level mixed martial artist, you have to learn how to wrestle. And it would be very surprising to somebody that has never seen him or never heard that before to watch him fight and see how well he wrestles against high-level grapplers, guys that do have wrestling experience, guys that have high-level jiu-jitsu like Corey Sandhagen does, and he just takes them down with ease. He's not the guy who started at 5 years old in the elementary school wrestling program and worked his way up and wrestled D1. He's a striker who really took to wrestling extremely well. So I say that to say that I think he can hang with Sugar Sean on the feet to some degree. Sean he's got that lights out power. Sean O'Malley is very precise. He can find his target. And if Umar just decided to have a pure stand-up fight with Sean, I think that would be a mistake of a game plan. But I do think Umar can get Sean to the ground. Now, Merab, and this might surprise you, I think Merab is a much easier fight for Umar than Sugar Sean is.
Really?
Because I think the grappling cancels itself out. And I think the Achilles heel for Merab is his striking. His striking is not the best. He's got arguably the best cardio and gas tank in all of the UFC. His wrestling and his chain wrestling, how he can just string takedown attempts together, is top notch. I mean, we saw that against Henry Cejudo, who's an Olympic gold medalist. He was having problems getting taken down by Merab. But I think Umar can prevent the takedown. And then Umar is just allowed to do what he wants to do on the feet. And I don't think on the feet it's very close between Umar and Merab.
I agree.
So my prediction, if that fight were to be the one that take place, if Merab gets the jump on Sugar, is that Umar would actually defeat him. Sugar versus Umar is a very interesting proposition as well. I think that Umar has a very good chance of winning that fight. But now for the wrinkle, I don't believe we're going to see that fight if Sugar Sean wins against Merab Dvalishvili, and I'll tell you why. Umar Nurmagomedov might be one of the most difficult matchups for Sugar Sean. We saw before he accepted the fight with Merab Dvalishvili, when he won his last fight, that he called out Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria has now got a dance partner, and it's all happening around the same time that Sean O'Malley's fighting Merab in the Sphere. You have a massive event in the Sphere. You have a massive event in Abu Dhabi that was supposed to be Islam's main event, but he's injured, so now we have Ilia versus Max. Either way, the winner of that fight is a megastar. Max is already a megastar. He's got the BMF belt. Everybody loves Max Holloway, and Max Holloway has the type of style that Sean would want to match up against. He doesn't want to go and be held down and all that. Ilia Topuria, with a win over Max Holloway, especially if it's a knockout like he's calling it, is saying it's going to be, he's a megastar at that point. If you're the first guy to knock out Max Holloway, or even if you just beat Max Holloway in dominant fashion, you are the next UFC kind of rising star. You're a top 5 draw in the sport, at least top 7 draw. So if Ilia is able to get the jump, Sean's going to want that fight, of course. If Max gets the jump, Sean's not only going to want to fight for champ, he's going to want to fight for champ, because you have the BMF and you have the 145 belt. And Sean is, he makes no bones about it. He's in this sport to make money. He knows how to draw eyeballs to himself. He knows how to make people click buy on the pay-per-view button when it's time to do that on a Saturday night. And he likes the fact that certain people hate him. He enjoys being the heel. Max Holloway's a fan favorite. I don't know any UFC fan that doesn't like Max Holloway. He'd love to go in there and be the guy who hears some boos. And that's Sean O'Malley. That is Sugar Sean. That's what's made him who he is. But make no mistake about it, he's a top-level fighter. And he's shown that a few times. He's the champion now. And I think everybody pretty much believes in his skill, even if you don't like his persona. But Umar is a very difficult fight for him because of the grappling aspect. So I think I say all that, and I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I say all that to essentially say I think that if Sean beats Merab, it might potentially be the last time we see Sean at 135 because you have Umar coming up. You have so much talent at 135. It's such a deep division. What do you wait for Davison to see if he can win a few more fights? Like, those are not big draws. And Sean O'Malley, even though he's a slender guy, he's a very tall guy for 135. So as he gets older, he's approaching 30 years old now. As he starts to fill out his frame, it's going to make more sense for him to be at 145, and that's where the bigger fights are, at least at this present moment. So I think that Sean, if he gets the jump on Merab, looks straight up to 145 for the winner of Max versus Topuria.
Which would be ultra exciting. And like you said, he's talked to the, he knows how to draw attention. And he understands that there's some hot names at 145 right now. But that's not the only time he's hinted at the featherweight division.
Yeah.
He has been kind of talking about moving up for years. He's like, eventually it's going to be hard for me to make 35 and then I'll eventually move up. It seems like now's the time. We've got the right people. And it was kind of funny. He was like, if Topuria wins, I'll go up and fight 45. But if Volk wins, I'm not going to go up there, because he was kind of showing Volk
respect to Volk.
Exactly. And I think that's pretty cool. But I wouldn't sell your skills short, because I think Sugar Sean, I get a lot of crap for saying this, I think he's the best striker in the entire UFC, and the UFC has the best talent in the entire world of mixed martial arts. So I think Sugar Sean right now is the highest level striker in the world. And if you go back and you watch the Max Holloway fight against Justin Gaethje, there's really nothing negative you can pull out of what Max Holloway did. But there are some parts to me where I feel like their styles would really mesh for a perfect fight. It'd be a lot of fun for the fans, and I think both of them would win rounds. I don't think Sugar Sean's just going to go up to 45 to get his ass kicked. I think he's going to go up there to actually become either the champion or a real name in the division. And I'm with you. I think if he goes up to 45, he's going to be like everybody else that moves up a division. They're like, you know what? That weight cut really did suck. And once you start to plan for 10 pounds more than what you've been planning for, you do put on a couple extra pounds. You bulk up in the offseason, you bulk up during camp, and then you cut the weight, and it's not near as difficult. So I think Sugar Sean might be looking at the featherweight division as a new permanent home. And it's really great that you say Umar Nurmagomedov comes in, he's got a fresh steam behind him, and he looks like $1 million. He looks like he could be the top contender, and likely would be either even money or potentially a slight favorite over Sugar.
Yeah, I think he'd be a favorite.
Yeah, it'd be a close money line, but I do think people see the name Nurmagomedov, they understand, and even though Sugar Sean is lethal with his striking, he hasn't shown us really any hiccups in his game in his entire UFC career. When you see that last name Nurmagomedov and you know that Sugar Sean is a polarizing character that does all the promotional stuff, you always sort of look at those guys as I don't want to say hacks, but you look at them as like characters. You don't think they're at the elite level until they go out there and beat everybody that they beat, and they're undefeated on their rise. So I feel like Sugar Sean, he gets that sort of light shined on him, but he goes out there and performs the way he does, always gets his hand raised. So I think Umar Nurmagomedov is somebody he would love to have on his resume at some point. But I don't think it's make or break for him. It's not like Umar's a legend of the division and he's done this crazy body of work and now he wants to get this legend under his belt. I think Umar Nurmagomedov has his own career, his own trajectory that he has to deal with. And if he becomes a major star in the sport, then it makes sense for him to fight Sugar Sean. But if Sugar inserts himself into featherweight, he's automatically going right into a title shot. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport. He knows how to promote. He knows how to draw attention to himself. And I think Max Holloway would be chomping at the bit for that fight, because I think he thinks he would be able to get the younger, smaller guy out of there. And I also think that Ilia Topuria would love that, because Ilia understands the promotional side of the fight. And he knows, like, I need to get my name attached to these big names, because Ilia is a big star. I think Spain has one that's going to become something very special for them, but he has to get in the octagon with some big names. He was calling for Conor McGregor, and everybody sort of laughed that off, and that's not going to happen. I don't really see that happening ever.
I just don't see what weight class that would happen. I don't see Ilia going up to 70, and I really don't think Conor's ever going back down to 55 again. Certainly not 45.
Right. So you look at the landscape of 35, 45, 55, all the divisions that Ilia could potentially touch, And Sugar Sean, far and away, is the biggest name, the biggest star that he could possibly draw into. So Ilia is probably really hoping that Sugar Sean takes the bait and comes up to 45. But Max Holloway for sure would be thinking the same thing. And Sugar Sean, I'm not going to say he has no chance in that fight. I think he actually has a very good chance to beat both of those guys because the speed that he would bring up there. Finishing either one of those guys would be difficult, but he does have a good style, and he's really learning how to pace himself through 5 rounds. He knows when to turn the jets on, he knows when to pull back, and he knows when to get on his bike and kind of move around the octagon, use every square inch that he needs to. I think he would love to see Max Holloway in there because he knows he's not going to worry about takedowns or anything like that. He can go out there and show his skills, his best skills versus Max Holloway's best skills. And that's the kind of fight that the fans love to see. And people like Max Holloway and Sugar Sean, who are both massive MMA fans and UFC fans themselves, they know the fans want to see that kind of stuff, and they want to deliver those types of performances while they're still in their UFC career. So, yeah, I love that idea, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. I think Sugar Sean is one of those guys that wants the biggest name. He wants the biggest fights possible, but he also cares about respect amongst his colleagues and respect in the back room by all the fighters. And if he can go out there and keep beating these big names, then that's great. But then people will always say, oh, well, you didn't fight Umar. So I think Umar would wind up finding Sugar Sean again at some point. But if I was Sugar, I wouldn't wait around in the bantamweight division. I'd let some more just traction take place down there at 135. And since you're the hottest name in the sport right now, one of the most hottest active fighters in the game right now, and you got 2 guys at 45 that want to fight you, and it makes sense for you to go up there, that's all Sugar Sean needs. I think the UFC would see that clear as day. And since the schedules line up, the Sphere and Max Holloway and Topuria's fight are not too far off from each other, sometime early next year, you could make that fight. Who knows? It could be in Spain if Ilia gets it done. You know, the UFC is now talking about they'd love to go over there. And one thing you have is when you have a nation that's behind a fighter like Spain is with Ilia Topuria, and you're really trying to make a statement going over to a new country and putting on a big show, you need an international star as well. And Sugar Sean, for the UFC right now, is one of the top draws as far as international stars. So I think Sugar Sean moving to 45 is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I think that the writing's on the wall. I'm pretty sure if he gets past Merab, that's what he's going to want to do. It's just, like you said, that, you know, Max Holloway is one of the biggest names Ilia could draw into. The same can be said for Ilia to Max, you know, vice versa. And then you have to throw Sean in the mix because there's really no massive names at bantamweight anymore right now. And so those 3 guys are within a weight class of each other, and they're the 3 biggest names. And now we know that Volk is probably going to fight Justin Gaethje, you know, at UFC 309, I think they're saying. So Volk's not going to be fighting for the 145 belt anytime soon. I think Volk is ready to have some fun at this point in his career.